I see you now do so well in like a male-dominated industry because it's a sports industry, and you manage the most prominent female athletes. What is that like?
Tough because it's almost like I don't have room to make a mistake because I'm a female.
As your following grew, does it become easier to charge?
It does come a little bit easier, and I think what's nice is most of the time I get similar brands approaching me year in and year out.
Yeah.
So it makes it a little bit easier because I'm like, okay, I've grown 10k followers from the last time we did this. I've now worked with this number of brands from the last time we did this, so I know how to up my rate from the rate I had given them. And that's the challenge about social media. Once you are in that space, breaks. Sometimes you wish to just shut off all social media platforms and just woosa. You just want to collect yourself, bring yourself back to yourself. But when you're also thinking about the bag, you're just like, oh, I can't afford to take a break because now that opportunity comes and they see that your analytics are on red and they're just like, you're not actually having the engagement numbers that we want.
Like you constantly go in and out in terms of imagining yourself having a child.
Yes.
Because of like where you are building right now and where you are from a responsibility kind of view. Do you still feel scared to like take up that responsibility in your life?
I don't ever want to bring anyone into this world who's going to be subjected to anything else that's subjected to.
Hello, Resonate community, and welcome to the best and the biggest sales and entrepreneurship podcast in the whole wide world. I enjoy saying that so much. And as we lean towards the end of the year, I'm just like, yes. Today, I have a legendary guest because you're going to want to hear all about all the amazing work that she does. She's not only a childhood friend of mine, but she's a woman. She's an award-winning entrepreneur who basically founded the first female-owned sports agency for female athletes. Jessica Nkomo, welcome to the Resonate podcast.
Hello. Do I say hello, friend? Do I say hello, chomi? What do I say? I'm sitting across you and I'm just like, I cannot believe childhood. Now we're sitting across each other as like big people. We are great in our industry. It's crazy. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm so excited to chat to you. I'm always excited to talk to people I know.
Yes.
Because I'm just like, okay, we've got so much to uncover because these are like our coffee and lunch sessions.
100%. It's just like now on a platform to talk about this and get people like listening.
Yeah.
100% happy to be here. So honored.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming, friend. Before we get into anything, I'm going to call you friend. Like just Jess might not come out.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Because I was also worried. I was just like, like, am I saying Michelle? Am I saying Chomi? Am I saying friend? Is it appropriate? Is it not? So I'm just going to stick to friend.
We're going to keep it candid and like natural. Whatever feels good at whatever time. We have a 5 round of questions here at the Resonate podcast to get to know you.
I mean, prepared for that.
I obviously do.
Please don't be spicy with those questions because I know you. Okay,
never.
Cool.
And we really try to get to know you as the entrepreneur, you as the founder of B Sports Agency. And my first question to you is, if you could have any superpower to help you run your business, what would it be and why?
Okay, a superpower to help me run my business. This is so tricky. I don't know if it's a superpower, right? But it's a strength that I really feel like I lack, you know, being firm. I can't be firm. Like I've seen like it's so problematic. Maybe because of my personality, always being friendly, always being nice. I can't draw the line between my, like, you know, me being a boss and me being part of the team. Like I think because I mean, you see how bubbly I am. So if I had to choose a power, I don't know if it's a superpower, but it would definitely be to be firm and be able to just draw those lines. There's somebody I've hired who basically does that for me.
It was like the firm hire.
No, 100%. When she calls your name out, you must know that it's going down. She also does it to me as well.
Gosh.
So yeah.
That is so interesting. And I think now that you say that, growing up, you've always been like the softest.
Yes.
I'm very soft, but like you're also very, very soft.
Yeah, no, I'm very, very soft and I'm very emotional. I cry. Like if you do something isn't sharp and I'm just like, but I asked you 3 times to do this and deliver and you didn't, but I can't shout at you. I'm just going to cry and call it a day.
Boss babe.
That's bad.
Okay. The second one is, what's the best piece of advice you've ever received that changed the way you approach your work or life?
All right. So the best advice that I have received is that if there's any change that you want to create in the business space that you are in, just start by investing in yourself. You know, put in the effort and always believe in your craft. And the person that actually said that to me is sitting across the table from me. You said that to me a couple of years back, and this was not
Oh
about
my
the
gosh.
agency. I still had an events
I
company.
remember that very
And
well.
then I was asking you about advice because you started doing the eventing thing
Yes.
before I did.
Yeah.
And you say to me, friend, if you believe in your own craft and you master your own craft, you don't have
Yeah.
to try and convince other people that you're doing quite well. And till today, that's basically what I use.
Oh my gosh. Why am I getting emotional?
Yeah, I am too. I am too. It's
Oh,
crazy.
wow.
Yeah.
That is so insane. And you know what? As I was thinking of our conversation today, I thought to myself, I've watched you over the couple of years run different. Like you used to do promotions at some
Yes, I did.
point.
I did music videos. I did
Music
extras.
videos,
Yeah.
dances,
Yes, yeah.
dancing as well, music video coordinating. Like there was
Yes.
just so much. And I'm curious to know, was there a part of your childhood that influenced the woman you've become today?
Yes, definitely. I think growing up in a household where you don't have a lot of motivation definitely does play a part when you grow up.
Yeah.
Because it's almost like when you're sitting by yourself, you are actually thinking, "Gore, a gona motho out there that's actually going to do it for me.
Yeah.
I need to get up and I
Yeah.
need to do it." So I think me not having that push and that motivation, which is something that everybody who has it is such an honor and privilege to have.
Yeah.
But I think that shaped me to become the woman that I am because there was no handouts. I had to hustle. I remember my parents retired after matric. I think you would remember that.
Yeah.
And I had to get a job very quickly. So
Yeah.
I had to grow up very quickly.
Yeah.
And because of the lack of that motivation, I wanted to prove something to myself to say, irregardless of the lack of motivation and support that I had in my upbringing,
Yeah.
I'm still going to be able to do it. And I promised myself that I don't ever want to be a parent in the future that's not able to instill the motivation
Yeah.
that I want my child to have, because I know it would have shaped me to be even a better person today if I had it.
I love that so much. And Neri Papa also, like, we liked things
Ne rata dilo. And it helped us. Go rata dilo helped us.
big time.
Because we didn't sit on our hands. We're taking everything that came past us. Ne re
Yeah.
batla go explore, ne re batla go experience. And I think that basically gave us the experience that we needed. You know, it's like ngwana monyane ha mmotse re sa tshwara mollo, you're going to get burned.
Yeah.
Sometimes motlogele.
Yeah.
You know, and they get burnt. You know,
Yeah.
obviously don't burn the whole entire child, but just, you know, when you give them that experience to say, don't do this, do that, sometimes it helps. So go Papa ga rona basically did try and help us.
Yeah. And I think obviously now when I interact with you, I feel like I'm interacting with a different version of you versus the version that I used to interact with when we were younger and now just growing up. And now you're in the sports industry.
Yeah.
Jesus, Jess.
Growth, it's crazy. And I think, friend, when we were young, Pastor Colin.
Yeah.
I don't think we actually even spoke about sports.
Yeah.
I don't think we actually spoke about anything that we are doing right now. Like, to be quite honest with you, I've always been passionate about sports, but I never imagined to be in the space that I currently am in, because I know it's a very male-dominated space, number one, to begin with. The competition is very high when it comes to the ladies that are in the space and talented ladies that are in the space. And it's almost like if you don't know somebody who knows somebody that knows somebody in this industry, it's very hard to, you know, make it.
Yeah.
You know, the doors are always shutting in front of your face. So it's quite funny. And when I think about it, I think I tweeted or I put on Facebook, I don't know how to reference it now because it's called X. You know, did I exit or did I
It's
just
Twitter.
tweet? Yeah, I tweeted. And I said, I can't believe I get to watch myself on TV every Saturday speaking about sports.
Wow.
Like, this is something that I never imagined would ever be possible in this day. You know what I'm saying? So I think growth, as you say, the conversations that we are having now, there's a lot of maturing that's happened. There's a lot of learning that's happened. There's a lot of opportunity that has presented itself to us, you know, and us basically evolving and discovering our basically true core and philosophy of how we want to run our lives basically plays a role, and understanding, hore, this is how I want my future to be. These are the goals I've met and these are the goals I still need to meet. And you just pioneer on that.
Yeah. I want to dial back to what you said when you said Ria di Kempitsa Pastor Colin. I think for a lot of people that don't know, is that our parents used to ship us to Christian camps during school holidays.
Yes.
And that's basically, literally, if like the school was closing on the 15th, on the 16th would be at a Christian camp.
100% repakile re ready.
Yes, and then would be back the day before the schools
Yes,
open.
yeah. We didn't spend any time at home.
No, it was
We literally
never.
were gone. No, it's thinking when that van, Pastor Vellum comes through, we are ready with our bags to leave.
Like, let's go.
Yeah.
You know, as I've watched you grow over the course of the different businesses that you've run, I see you now do so well in like a male dominated industry because it's the sports industry and you manage the most prominent female
Yeah.
athletes. What is that like to be in such a male dominated industry? Because you also, like you said earlier, very soft.
Yes, yeah. No, it's very hard. It's challenging. It gets you out of your comfort zone. And it helps you basically work a little bit harder. But at times it's tough because it's almost like I don't have room to make a mistake because I'm a female and I'm a woman.
Sure.
If we are sitting and we are actually analyzing a specific match, and I'm sitting with a male colleague, or a male colleague is analyzing that game, we are most likely to forgive them for a mistake that they made or a false analysis they've made on that particular game. But if I had to make that same mistake, I had to be cancelled. You know, I'm told how I belong in the kitchen. I'm told how, what am I doing actually, you know, in a male dominated space. It's obviously changed in the few years it's been, but there is a big culture shift that still needs to happen when it
Yeah.
comes to that what do you call them, stereotype. There we
Yes.
go. So it's very difficult at times, but like I said, motivating, because if we want our Zoes to come into a space like this and be able to be respected for the
Yeah.
kind of work that they put in, not because they are girls. We need to make sure that we are fighting for them and making sure that we are breaking those gender imbalances to make sure that they don't have it as tough as we did.
Yeah.
So it basically helps us to work a little bit harder and, you know, challenges us to be better versions of ourselves.
Yeah, and I guess that's why the work that you do matters because female athletes usually, in my knowledge, aren't paid the same.
No, they're not paid the same, and they're lucky. They're lucky if they're actually paid. You know, a lot of people don't know that these women are actually having 9 to 5 jobs in order for them to sustain themselves. The part about football or cricket or whatever it may be is just a hobby, where our male counterparts are using the sport as a professional profession. My job is to play football, and I get paid and I earn enough for me to look after my household, my family, my extended family, and that kind of thing, whereby a woman has to still go do a 9 to 5 in order for her to come and play a training, and your life is gone. So I'm not afforded the same opportunity as a male in order for me to take this job as a profession. It's quite
Yeah.
upsetting.
Why do you think that is? Do you think that is just a gender inequality situation, or is there a place to have a further conversation around the market and whether or not sports, or female athletes, or maybe that part of sports drives
Yeah.
finances?
I think both of them. So, firstly, I speak about this a lot, a culture shift, right? We are in Africa. Africa predominantly, our leaders are not people, our male leaders, are not people that believe in a girl playing sports, right? And in the transition that it's happened in the 20th century, where we saw a lot of inclusivity when it comes to women in sports,
Yeah.
there's still a couple of people in power that are not really having that aggressive push in terms of changing the narrative for women's football, women's cricket, or women's sports in general. So I think it's a culture shift in terms of a woman's role in the home or in the community. Secondly, it's definitely the corporate not coming on board. That financial injection, when it's not there, it becomes a little bit difficult for a girl child to take it up as a career, because where's the money coming from?
Yeah.
Firstly, the games are not really broadcasted. Only SABC One will be a channel that broadcasts the Sunday games. However, how many other games are happening that are not broadcasted? If there's no viewership as well, there's no payment. Corporates are not coming on board. There's only solely one sponsor who's sponsoring the amateur league. It's not even a professional league as yet. So if you look at it, I think it's just the investment in women's sports that's lacking. It's the leaders also not trying to, high press as much as they can to make sure that this narrative changes and we give back to the girl child who represent us on large scales. I mean, Banyana Banyana and the T20 girls, the cricket girls, and we look at the Springbok ladies also. They're always breaking records. They're always putting us on the map more than some of the teams in the male side do. But again, no matter how best we are packaged, there's still a bit of a shy or a pull away when it comes to actually investing in the sport. So I think it's a whole lot of components that play a role, which I believe in the future they'll be different, but it's a slow, gradual change.
Absolutely. And I think maybe a call to female entrepreneurs to invest.
Yeah.
in female sports in terms of sponsorship, etc. Because that's
Yeah.
how we get to advance the game.
100%. I saw Mihlali posted something on social media a couple of days ago where she spoke about people to email her team if anyone is having a tournament for girls this,
Nice.
festive, should like to sponsor, which is another great example of, female entrepreneurs coming on board. And not just female entrepreneurs, I mean, the marketing executives that are sitting in those positions with the budget, to make the
Yeah.
call. I know Ntogozo Matonsela from Momentum is one person who will always advocate for equality and will speak about how her position and her role is to ensure that she brings everybody up. You know what I'm saying? So I think if you are sitting in an office, wherever you are sitting, and you have the decision making, power, as a female, I think you can, definitely generate a little bit of income there or financial injection. And there's different ways of how you can contribute.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you must sponsor the entire league or an entire team. Maybe perhaps sponsor a pre-league season tournament or those kind of things, a platform where other stars could be discovered.
Yeah.
I think there's a whole lot of things, but definitely entrepreneurs and also the people that have the power to make the decisions.
Yeah, I love that a lot. You manage basically a huge cohort from Banyana Banyana. Some of the most prominent players that can go globally and are playing amazing,
Yeah.
amazing football. I want to know from you, when you started the business, how did you get your first client? Like, what was that like?
So getting my first client happened before I actually launched the business. I was helping a couple of athletes, Matala Saidi, just with a few contract reading, just with a few, just conversations about how to elevate their brand visibility in the social space, because sometimes when you're trying to get endorsements you need to be visible. So it was just conversations that were happening then a few of them then said, why don't you just start an agency where you can help us and others that are also on the same boat with us, that probably require the help that we need from you, but don't have access to you. Getting the clients for me was, I've gotten the clients before I actually started the business. So it was a very swift move, but it came I did not expect it to turn out the way it did. And maybe perhaps because it was the first, or probably the only, or maybe how we marketed ourselves, if we were not the first, or whatever the case may be, if there were other representatives. I think it's just how we put ourselves out there. The turn out of DMs and interviews we had to do and players who were requesting for representation shocked me, because I'm just like, all this time no one was actually representing these athletes. It was almost like it was the first opportunity for everybody to flock to. And in my head, I'm just like, did it take that long for somebody to identify that gap?
Wow.
And try and initiate a space where we can look after these ladies. And that comes back from what I was mentioning earlier, to say, not sitting and hoping for help to come from somewhere, but actually creating help yourself. Because that's the only way we can change the situation. If we have these conversations about it, it gets so exhausting, because all we do is talk about it. But if we get up and actually create those platforms, it will definitely be an opportunity for these players to reach out to us. I remember the last time when you introduced me at one of the events we did together for the department. You had said this is a person that creates the tools and the resources on social media of how athletes can basically elevate their brand visibility. And exactly that, providing them with the tools and the resources that they need, or did not even know they need, in order for them to elevate their brand or image.
Yeah, that's so powerful, because you're also a woman who's representing other women. Do you ever get scared, insecure around pricing and mentioning figures and money?
Yes, of course. Of course we do. Here's a funny thing. I am very good at negotiating rates for my athletes. If a company comes to me and is requesting an athlete to either make an appearance or come and talk to a group of students, whatever it may be, I'm very good at negotiating rates, and I will not back down until we get whatever rate it is. Sometimes my athletes will be like, our manager, it's okay, 5,000 ish up. I'm like, absolutely not. You deserve 15K for the 4 hours, even though you believe you don't, but this is the time we actually change the narrative. But later come to me when I get the same request to come and be a speaker, an MC, or anything like that. I question myself. It's almost like you don't want to overcharge because you missed the opportunity,
Yeah.
but you also don't want to undercharge. There was a campaign I was requested to do last year. It was an international brand, big international brand, and I was chosen with prominent names, and I didn't know then, Michelle. I got the request, and then I looked at the numbers and I calculated. You calculate your stylist, your photographer, the
Yes.
makeup artist for the
Yeah.
day, and then I was like, okay, minus 5,000. Don't be greedy. And then I sent the rate card, and it was approved immediately. When I saw the names of the people that
Oh.
I was chosen with, I just knew I drank myself. Because I know those people's rates,
Yeah.
they don't go anything under 100K.
Oh my
And to look
gosh.
at how much I charged them was probably the bargain for that particular campaign.
Sure.
So I really do get scared. I do get terrified. Sometimes I get it right, sometimes I don't, but we'll figure it out.
Do you think that it's become better as you're following and maybe your influence grows to a
Yeah.
point where, like, when you started, because I mean, you're quite well known on Twitter
Yeah.
as Auntie
Yeah.
Disti, and as your following grew, does it become easier to charge?
It does come a little bit easier. And I think what's nice is most of the time I get similar brands approaching me year in and year out.
Yeah.
So it makes it a little bit easier because I'm like, okay, I've grown 10K followers from the last time we did this. I've now worked with this number of brands from the last time we did this. So I know how to up my rate from the rate I had given them. And I think when your social media grows, your influence grows, your
Yeah.
talkability grows, your engagement numbers, your analytics grow. So I think it's a better motivation for you. And I mean, even when you're sending your profile is beefed up
Yeah.
than it was 2 years ago. So it's easier for you to say, okay, last year I was 20K, but this year I'm 40K.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it comes with the growth, but you also have to be consistent, and that's the challenge about social media. Once you are in that space, breaks. Sometimes you wish to just shut off all social media platforms and just woosa. You just want to collect yourself, bring yourself back to yourself. But when you're also thinking about the bag, you're just like, oh, I can't afford to take a break because
Yeah.
now that opportunity comes and they see that your analytics are on red and they're just like, you're not actually having the engagement numbers that we want. So it's a catch-22 really.
Yeah. How did you, I mean, I obviously know this, but for the sake of the podcast, how did you build your brand, particularly on Twitter? Because this has been over, this has been over a
You
couple of
had to go
years. I had
there.
to, and you've built it to be so well known, and in different seasons and with a lot happening.
Yeah.
But was that intentional for you? How did that happen?
It really wasn't intentional. And just to get you guys out of your misery, Michelle's talking about the hooligan I was on social media. As a football fan, big diehard football fan who basically bantered about everything, every team, every coach, every player, and that kind of thing.
You had a
And
lot to say
I
about
had a lot to say
everything.
about everything, and it got to a point where everything I tweeted just trended. Everything that I tweeted just, it will make articles and that kind of thing. And it was never intentional. I was just a fan like everybody else, just
Yeah.
voicing out my opinions about a
Yeah.
specific match or a coach, whatever the case is. But then I think once brands start to, want you to do some work, you kind of have to sugarcoat on a lot of things that you are saying.
Yeah.
I can't say something that I said 5 years ago about a specific coach. You also have to refrain from actually talking about who you support, when
Yeah.
you become a football analyst, because you don't want to sound biased in any analysis that you give.
That is true.
So I ke kgone gore ke kwate the way I used to when my team loses. I have to be very vigilant on the things that I say. And you know this, when you're being approached by any brand that wants you to come and be a speaker or an MC, these days they scrutinize everything. We are going to
Yeah.
search things you said
Yes.
10 years ago, and it doesn't matter if you were a kid and
Yeah.
you were a fan who was angry or you wanted to call out your service provider at that particular time. So it wasn't intentional, but when I saw that, wait, there's actually a bit of cheese here.
Yeah.
I just needed to restructure myself, rebrand myself,
Yeah.
and actually find opportunities of how I can generate income and also grow my brand in the right direction and light I needed to be.
Yeah.
So we are transitioning from that hooligan to somebody that's securing the bag and somebody that motivates people, and I think everything just fell into place when I rebranded, and I was like, okay, here's an opportunity here, identifying places where I could also fit in without moving into a very congested space, because sports can get a lot like that.
Yeah. I mean, reflecting back as you say that, I remember growing up, you've always been like such a hustler,
Yeah.
but you've always had, it's like the gift to see the simplest things that people don't see that
Yeah.
matter the most.
Yes.
It's like would be getting ready to leave the house and
Yeah.
you will like pick up that like this hair is not sitting the
Yes.
way it's
Yeah.
supposed to be sitting, or like this earring might not work, let's
Yeah.
do this one. And
Yeah.
I think that's the big gift you've applied in the work that you do today.
Yeah.
And maybe that's when I look at it, I'm like, that's actually part of how you grew, because even if you got angry like the rest of the fans, there was a way in which there were certain things that you saw within that communal anger that you would show out and talk about, and people are just like, oh my God,
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah.
That's also what I felt, but I didn't know how to express myself
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Which is like,
Yeah, so yeah, I get it. No, definitely. I think it's perspective as
Yeah.
well, just finding angles of how to attack a certain topic or situation. And I think for now, another thing is when I grew up, I was bullied a lot, right? For the way I looked. I used to look like a boy. Nanta toka nang kata muriri. You remember, friend, neke like a short hair. I think
Yes.
maybe high school ki mo ki tshwemileng, vasla paiti. Yeah, I
To
started
be,
having a bit
yeah.
of hair. So I grew up getting bullied, and that kind of made me feel like I'll never have opportunity in order for me to be on screen or to be picked or anything like that. And I think the psychological part about it is when you are young, you absorb a lot. You
Yeah.
absorb a lot than you would when you're growing up, especially if you don't have a circle of supporting people to tell you that don't let people define you. They actually do define you
Yeah.
because you end up believing it, because I'm not hearing any other good compliment at home that would make me, wash out everything negative that I get out of there. So you basically sit and figure out what are other ways where I can make it work if I don't think I will make it work this way, So it's basically just finding different perspective in everything you do, not just in business, in friendships, in relationships with your family. And up until then, I feel like maybe that quality, without actually realizing that's how I've always been, I've just used it to identify a new opportunity. Even when I came into the industry, I knocked, they closed the doors. I knocked, closed all doors. And then I was like, you know what? I'm actually going to start a podcast where I'm going to let the fans actually speak out for themselves, because we are never given the opportunity to voice out our frustrations. The podcast fell through. Actually, it just, it didn't surface. I didn't do enough research on it. But the point of this is that I never waited for any channel to say, okay, cool, now you can come in, because I've knocked and I've tried to prove, and I've sent videos and clips and I've auditioned and I've done everything I possibly could.
Yeah.
But I was like, let me do something. Eventually,
Yeah.
they'll notice me. I'll
Yeah.
master this so much that they'll be like, wait, Reboni, this and this and this. So I create just another
Yeah.
route of making things work.
When you say that, I remember there was a year where like Big Brother South Africa, there were
God.
auditions,
Yeah.
and we were like, oh my God, Jess,
Yeah.
audition.
I remember, and friend, I don't know if you remember that I went to the actual final
Yes,
interview.
yes.
I just didn't get the house call selection.
Yeah.
And because Nanigira everything, guys. Like,
You are knocking at
I was knocking at
every
every door.
door.
Kere. If you're saying "Le batla motho a berekang ko McDonald's," I was there. I didn't care if I didn't know
Yeah.
anything about food. I was once a vehicle assessor. I
Yeah.
know nothing about cars,
Oh my
but I was
gosh.
doing insurance claims for heavyweight cars and Kaira the extra, and I did dancing. I've just always put myself in a position where
Yeah.
you're just like, being a jack of all trades sometimes have advantages when things don't work out here.
True.
Because if you don't find an opportunity here, it doesn't mean you just sit and you wait for an opportunity to avail itself. Zamoira something in the interim,
Yeah.
Zamo panda machangura, save up for that business that you've always wanted to do. Even if
Yeah.
it's money that's coming through from you being a vixen,
Yeah.
it'll work eventually. You open your boutique and then, we call it a day. So, hey, yeah, Rafol.
Yeah. And I love that we're highlighting this a lot, because I think people can easily see right now and think like this is where it all started and it just boomed. And it's like, no, there's years of like ad agencies, there's years of
Yes.
hustling,
Yes.
there's years of like putting together dancing calls for children. Ko
Yes,
Cosmo City.
exactly. I remember I was looking at the picture. It was Guli Chana and I were doing auditions, Go Cosmo
Yes.
City.
Yeah.
And managing, the line and
Yes.
everything like that. That's crazy
Where
that
there
you
was
still remember
yeah,
that.
where there was no cars,
Nothing.
no
No
like no
Ubers
yeah.
at that time.
What it takes to go and
Exactly.
like build a brand and a name for yourself. And now when it accumulates, it only accumulates now because there's been so much work that, and friend, this is almost like, I think this is 10 years years in the
Yeah.
making.
Yes.
And now is not only a result of what you've done right now, but a result of everything else that you've been doing over the past 10 years.
100%. And it takes a lot of patience. And I think for me, something that has kept me going is definitely my God. You know, I am a firm believer of, when the time is right, the Lord will make it happen.
Yeah.
You know, you constantly go through the hardships and the challenges of life, and, self doubt and people trying to diminish you
Yeah.
or try and make you believe that you are not the brand that you think you are. But I think if you do pray, and I was actually talking about a scripture this today, and I was saying, God says his plans are not your plans, so in everything that you can try and do, he's got a plan for you. And I think
Yeah.
that's what has kept me going. I've had tough times, that,
Yeah.
I've gone with almost without, I've literally had hardships on all aspects of my life,
Yeah.
but I never stopped trying to work hard, because literally when you understand that akuna ope, there's no one else that can make it happen for you except yourself, you're going to get up. Laos na mata, you're
Yeah.
going to get up. Even if you don't have the strength to pray at that point, you're going to pray, and you're
Yeah.
just going to make it happen.
Yeah. And I guess we've always lived with that. Like, no one's coming to save you.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, if you
No
sit
one.
down and cry about it,
Yeah.
that's all it's going to be.
Exactly.
There's
You
no
what?
Prince Charming. There
Thank
is
you.
no, nothing's going to fall. No, you're going to
Yes.
have to get up and you're going to have to do it yourself.
100%. And sometimes I'm so grateful to my parents. At that time, I didn't understand, know. And I was like, how dare you leave me as a child who just finished matric without helping me or giving me the necessary platform that I need in order to make it out in life,
Yeah.
And I don't know how life would have been or turned out if ever they had stuck around long enough for me to, prosper. But sometimes I thank them throwing me in the literal deep end
Yeah.
at such a young age.
Yeah.
Basically awakened me. Ne ke rekisa maswitse le di Zimba ko khoneng ela ya ko Chatwele ko di robotong when I was 9.
Yeah. Sure.
When I was like 12, I was doing gift wrapping at Four is More for Christmas things.
Yeah.
I've always just known hore plane eating, all these things that we are doing. And people tend to give up easily because you're just like, hi man, I've been trying and I've been working hard. There is no expiry date of how long and how hard you need to work.
Yeah.
You continue until you, even now, I'm still working hard for a specific goal
Yeah.
that I've set for myself that I don't feel like I've actually reached. So you just never give up. It's always just constantly pushing yourself, motivating yourself. And also, you're very privileged if you have a support system around you that can keep you going, especially people that know your own values and know your strength to keep you going, to say, Jess, like I would come to your place and I would sob, and you'd be like, okay, friend, let's have ice cream, let's talk about it. This is not the Jess.
Yeah.
Okay, it's fine to be emotional right
Yeah.
now, but don't park and, build a house in this. Like you can resurrect from this. So I feel like that goes a long way. And I don't know. I don't have the right formula to share with anyone to say this is, because life I not there for. However, but I feel like working hard, being persistent, being patient, and believing that you'll reach your goals definitely will give you that push.
Yeah. Do you think that people that maybe have like a lot more options or like a plan B to fall back on could find it a bit more harder to continuously get up even on the hard days?
I think so. And I'm only speaking because if it was me and I had a plan B, I would find it hard to get up. I probably wouldn't even get up because I feel like there's no need. I probably just get up because me getting up is a hobby. You know what I'm saying? But for me, not having a plan B, I get a choice. You have to go and secure the bag. If I feel like on a day where I'm super emotional and I'm so down and I have to be on TV, I have to view the whole of South Africa and present and look excited.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If there's an opportunity for me to just sleep in and on that day just cry and be in my feels and be in my emotional, I'm definitely going to take that option. But knowing that if I do that, there could be consequences that I could suffer that will put me back to square one, and I don't have a plan B when I'm stuck at square one, makes it, are not luxury. But I believe as a person, as an individual, if I did have a plan B, I don't think I would push as hard as I'm pushing right now, because I feel like it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
It's so much. I love when you talk about having days where you have to go on TV, you have to go record, and you're going through the most, and you have to
Yes.
carry a conversation.
Of
You have
course.
to be articulate. So also, like, even when you cry the night before, you can't cry too much because then your eyes are going to swell up.
Thank you.
And you
And
can't show up
makeup
like
can't hide all of that. You know what I'm saying? So, Kore, you're like, cat will cry again after shoot. Because if you cry too much, you're
Yes.
swelling. And then you make up and you cannot. You don't want to
Yeah.
walk into studio and the producer's like, "Otshwere keng? What's wrong with you?"
Yeah.
You know, you want everybody
Yeah.
to always see you as the Michelle
Yeah.
that we know on screen, on camera.
Yes.
Whether your cat died or I guess unamezi taxi because you didn't have fuel in your car to
Yes.
get to work. It
Whatever
doesn't
happened.
matter. You know what I'm saying? And it's just that constant on and off that you have to have. It really messes up with you a lot because you're so out of touch with your emotions most of the time because you put your well-being, your mental well-being, emotional well-being at the back seat
Yeah.
at the expense of making other people happy because you have to deliver at the end of the day.
You just touched a different nerve.
Yeah.
You just touched a different nerve. I don't know who I was talking to. It could be you and Neo, the post thing, or Tisha, my little sister.
Yeah.
And I was saying to her, "Nna motho a nkwatisa ke bula laptop."
Mm.
Like when I get very upset and angry, I
Yeah.
channel my energy into
To work. You
I
did say
don't,
that at the-
yes,
yeah.
yeah. Like I don't know how to like,
Exactly.
oh my gosh, whatever, whatever. It's like, no, I don't know how to do that.
And this is not the Michelle
Yeah.
that back in the days we would cry about
Yes.
things. We would allow ourselves to
Yeah.
be in the midst of sadness
Yes.
and experience what it feels like
Yeah.
and then open room for healing.
Yeah.
But right now, when you're angry, you go to the one thing that you're constantly doing 24 hours. It's such an unhealthy outlet.
And that you feel like you're good at.
You feel like you're good at,
Yeah.
and because you should be expressing yourself, you should be channeling all that anger to something that's actually going to give you clarity.
Yeah.
Opening up your laptop and just working is almost like you're dismissing your emotions.
Yeah.
You're not actually dealing with it. You're just closing everything off. Let me work. Let me send this email. Let me do this proposal.
Yeah.
But you've actually parked that little problem and that emotion because you're just trying to be strong. We don't allow ourselves to actually be vulnerable in this space. And it gets very toxic. It gets very unhealthy. And in the long run, now we are the 40, 50-year-old, 60-year-olds that are going to therapy because there's so much for us to unlearn
Yeah.
because we spent all this time basically trying to be superwomen
Yeah.
and feeling like it's not okay for us to go through
Yeah.
things. It's, I don't know.
Yeah.
We need to do better.
We do. We absolutely do. And I love the fact that we can be very honest about these
Yeah.
kind of things and just be like, I think this is where we currently are. And
Yeah.
like we are moving and walking towards it.
Yeah.
Obviously now we're a lot more older and there's
Yeah.
like more responsibilities. I'm getting married.
Yes.
I'm already married, but I'm having a wedding this
Yes,
year.
yeah.
You are also already married and
but
you've got a wedding this year. And there's on the same
On
day.
the same day. Oh my goodness. Like, that is so insane.
So creepy.
I don't think like 13-year-old Michelle and Jess at camp ever imagined that
No.
would actually be having wedding on the same day.
Yeah.
Literally got engaged in the same year.
Yes.
Like, everything just kind of
Yeah.
happened at the same time. Goosebumps.
It's like, yeah,
right.
very, very interesting.
Yeah.
And we were talking about, I remember our last lunch, we were talking about kids and like
Yes.
responsibilities and all of that stuff. And I was sharing with you my experience with like little
Yes.
Zoe
Yes.
and embracing that. And you mentioned something, and I even saw you posted about it on WhatsApp the other time. Was it today or something? And you were talking about how like you constantly go in and out in terms of imagining yourself having a child.
Yes.
Because of like where you are building right now and where
Yeah.
you are from a responsibility kind of view. Do you still feel scared to like take up that responsibility in your life?
I do take, I really am scared because remember when I spoke about how I worked hard and I said I don't ever want to bring anyone into this world who's going to be
100%.
subjected to anything I was subjected
Yeah.
to. So my constant goal is to be at a specific place in my life that I'm able to afford somebody else things that I wasn't afforded.
Yeah.
Not because I have the money to do it or anything like that, because I don't think money raises a child. I think it's part of the things that do raise a child.
Yeah.
But I just feel like emotionally and mentally being available for that individual I bring to the world. It's quite scary. This is not my niece or my nephew. This is my child that basically looks up to me and depends on me for everything. However, I feel like I've probably almost over-exhausted that role of being a mother with all the responsibilities and roles I have to play for different individuals. That makes me feel that it takes away the bit of excitement. You know, I'm just like, this is too much of a responsibility. And this is not even like responsibility that I have to be on 24 hours. Even just that little bit of taste of it, I'm just like, oh, outside
Yeah.
of everything else, and I'm just like very worried that with the busy schedule that I also have, the traveling, the constantly not even finding time, like people will be surprised how you and I
Yeah.
would see each other not so often,
Yeah.
and we stay in close proximity. Every time I'm like, girl,
Yeah.
let's go for lunch, you're at a shoot.
Yes.
When you're like, Jess, let's go for this, I'm in Cape Town.
Yeah.
We don't see each other that much, and I'm just like, I'm already spread so thinly, and I've always envisioned to be a present mom 24 hours. Like I've literally envisioned myself being a housewife. Hopefully my wife sees
Jokes
this.
on you.
I know it's like, wake up, Monyane,
Okay.
So it is scary, but it's a journey I think I really do want to go on. My wife always speaks about it, to say, okay, so if it was up to her, we would have 5 kids. I think the only thing that would be limiting is definitely IVF is expensive. So it's not just a decision you make overnight. You're like, okay, Kausani, let's go to the bank, let's do this.
Yes.
But I feel like I just want to really be emotionally ready, which I feel like I'm not at the moment.
Yeah.
And I just want to afford my child that. I never want them to lack.
Yeah.
But also the clock is ticking for me. I feel like I don't want a 30-year age gap or a huge age gap,
Yeah.
40, 50, whatever it may be, because I've seen the age gap between me and my mom. Sometimes she cannot relate to the challenges that we face as women these days. Ha ke founa ke lla ke re, mama, somebody did and said this at work and it hurt my feelings. Ebe ke lla. My mom, the only advice that she knows how to give is to say iskalla,
Or rappel.
or rapela. And I'm not trying to hear that. I'm just trying to get you to be in my world and understand. But I feel like this is how she was raised in her generation. This is how she was comforted, and this is how she's expressing her love and comfort
Yeah.
towards me. So I feel like also time is not on my side in order for me to be able to relate to my child. But we'll never know. Maybe next time I come to the podcast, I'll have a bump. And then I'll be getting tips.
I highlight this conversation because it's also important to highlight that we can all be going through like the greatest success, but have different perspectives on different
Yeah,
things.
100%.
And it's okay to like literally be where you are, because
Yes.
there's Zoe, there's Tori, you've got so many
I've
kids
got so
to
many
like
kids, yes.
babysit, and just like
I'm good. Like when it comes to
enjoy.
the Zoes and the Tories, I've got all of them, and I'm like, I'm gonna be
right,
that aunt.
which is like
Yeah.
which is like amazing, and I love that a lot. I've got a few last questions for you as we wrap up this conversation. As a businesswoman, I mean, you've run so many businesses. You even said earlier, like, we wouldn't even have enough time to unpack
Yes, yeah.
the amount of businesses you've had
Yeah.
over the years, and you running them, you leaving them, you running them, you leaving them. How did you know that like B Sports was like it for
baby.
you? It was like, because I mean, like, you were in branding, and
Yeah.
then you were in dancing, and you also
Yeah.
ran like a talent agency at some
Yes, yeah, I
point.
did. Fan of fans.
With,
Yeah.
yeah, with like Jess, and
Yes.
there was so many
Yeah,
things that
I know,
happened.
yeah.
How did you know that B Sports was it? And I ask this because there's a lot of people who start their businesses and then they feel like, oh, I don't want to do this business anymore. Is it because it's hard and I'm giving up early?
Yeah.
Or it's really not the business for me? It was something that I was trying out and now I need to elevate to the next business that might be the it for me.
Yeah. So I think one of the biggest mistakes that entrepreneurs make is starting up businesses just for the financial gain. I think that on its own it's not enough, because I think with business you need to be passionate. Even if you're starting a business, start a business in something that you're passionate about, because when the tough times come, you've got something to hold on to.
Yeah.
The passion is what keeps you going. If it's something that you really have no interest in and the money is not flowing in, because the money is not going to flow in every day, you're going to have financial challenges in the business, it becomes less motivating for you to stay and fight. It becomes less interesting for you to actually try and find other alternatives of how to make the business work. So for me, in knowing that Bokamoso Sports Agency was the one, is I've always been passionate about sports. And for me, it was basically just about investing in the athletes more than it was about money. Everybody loves money. Money makes the world go round. But currently with the agency and the business that I have, it's not a money generating business, because I had made peace with the fact that this is more of a long-term investment, more than it is a financial making business. And on tough days, when I get dismissed by a chairman for a contract clause that I disputed, when my pockets run dry because I decided to send all my little leftover money to a couple of athletes in order for them to make training, and I'm crying and all of that. It's the passion that keeps me going, because this is something that I feel like is so true to my core. Even in anything that I can do voluntarily, it'll be relating to sports. So for me, I think that's what helped me understand that as a business that's going to give me more longevity, the strategy would be to do something that I'm really passionate about, because you give yourself opportunity to learn, and understand certain things. It becomes exciting, as opposed to now I'm in an industry where I'm not really excited about the
Yeah.
or farming, but I've really invested in this business now because there's a lot of money in this industry,
Yeah.
So you don't really evolve as a business owner because I have interest for you to be better or
Yeah.
to grow within the specific industry.
Yeah.
And it starts just phasing out. And it's an example I've seen with my other businesses that I had to let go of, entertainment for me wasn't a thing. I did entertainment because it was an opportunity that presented itself, and I actually tried to get myself in there. But I saw that it's not worth the headache for me because it's not something that I've really thought of actually doing.
Yeah.
But the sports, it's something that I'm willing to, run with for a long time, regardless of the hardships.
Yeah. I love that. My last question to you is, if you were to leave a message for Jess 5 years from now, what would you say to her?
Whew. I think the message I would leave for Jess 5 years ago is to stop being a people's pleaser. There's something that we do as people who get, especially maybe in my industry, when we get in there, we want to be liked. We want to be respected. We want to be taken serious. And the ways of how we go about that, it's almost like we are selling our souls to the devil.
Sure.
We don't actually consider what it does to us, what the damage is to us, because we're constantly focusing on how Michelle is going to view me and what can I benefit from a Michelle if she thinks I'm this kind of person. And when I went into this industry, I basically did a lot of, I was a shadow in a lot of people's lives, because I just wanted to be accepted. I lost my true identity. I lost my core in everything that I did because I was really just trying to be seen as somebody that people want me to be. And it catches up with you because you can only pretend to be somebody for so long. So if I could give advice to somebody, always be your true, authentic self, regardless of how it makes other people feel. If they are not in tune with who you are, it's okay, because your destiny doesn't involve you changing characters so many times in order for you to fit in. Your destiny doesn't need you to try and fit in. Whatever is put out there for you, you will find it. It'll locate you regardless. And the work that you need to do after losing yourself is so disheartening. It's so much, because now you actually see how much injustice you've done to yourself. So I would say go out there, be yourself, be unapologetically yourself. Clap for yourself, celebrate the little victories, because we become so hard on ourselves that you have a goal, Michelle. You haven't even finished this goal already. You're setting the next one. You get to that goal, you don't celebrate this one because you're focused on the next one. So stop, breathe, relax, take a step back, look at the achievements that you've made in the last 5 months, in the last year, and you'll see that you're not the Michelle that you were last December. You've actually achieved so much. But if you're always about just going to the next step without reflecting and looking back, it's going to be hard for you to actually see the work that you've done in the community.
I love that. I love that so much. And to future Jess?
Whew, to future Jess. Yo, to future Jess. Yo. Why are you asking me these tough questions that I never
know?
You see, this is Michelle as a friend, and I'm putting it out there. Everybody who didn't know and I know our whole squad is listening. Is to say Michelle has always been that person. Like, we'll have surface level conversations and questions, She'll just come with these bombastic questions. You're just like, girl, what is wrong with you? We just 15, okay? Ask us. So you're doing this to me.
Yes.
Advice to future Jess.
Or a message, just something you would want to say
A
to her.
message to future Jess is I am so proud of you, dog.
Oh,
Like, I am so proud of you. And I speak about how we are so hard on ourselves. And I'm actually speaking about myself.
yeah.
You know, I'm so proud of you. I know I have really big, I always tell you I'm Vuyo. Big dreamer. My dreams just look absurd. But
Yeah.
I get it, they said your dreams need to scare you. If they don't scare you, I
Yeah,
also
yeah.
go back to the drawing board. I'm so proud of you. You've done so well.
Yeah.
You know, clap for yourself a little bit more, celebrate yourself a little bit more.
Yeah.
I was actually having a conversation with somebody that was like, I'm so inspired by you. When I grow up, I want to be like you. And I was like, why? You know what I'm saying? Because you don't get to sit. And then one day I was sitting and I was watching all my awards and all my certificates. And I was like, Jess,
Yeah.
you were a big deal,
Yeah.
girl. We become so selfless. It feels like when somebody tells you you're pretty, you're like, no, man, stop. You're
Yeah.
just being, we become so modest about our achievements, When somebody says, Michelle, I'm so proud of you. You've done so well. You feel like it's a favor or something like that. So, like, a message to really future Jess, I'm proud of you. You've done so well. Even if you don't see it yourself, but the fact that other people are acknowledging you and are celebrating you and you are motivating kids, there's kids that DM you and want advice means you've done the work. And I think that's basically what I'll say to future Jays. It's a message to Jays. Get proud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that so much, and I love you.
I love you more.
Thank you so much for joining me. I always get emotional when people answer this question because it's so sentimental.
It is. It
Very
really
much,
is.
yeah.
And I love that I got to share it on this platform
Yeah.
because we have been speaking about how one day we wish to be in such places.
Yeah.
And we never understood the magnitude of what we say with our mouths.
Yeah.
It translates to reality.
Yeah.
Today we're sitting across each other as powerful businesswomen who are doing exceptionally well, who are experts
Yeah.
in their own industries, and it's so phenomenal. It's always going to be emotional. Because the times when we were crying together about the hardships, when you sit here and you're just like, girl, we did it, and we're still going to do it even bigger and better. And I'm so honored to be sitting across you. You've done so well for yourself. Re phela re go seba le neo. About how well, and we always say, hey, we're meeting Michelle. Always, we always knew. In a group of girls or friends, you will always know who's the one that's going to do this first, who's the one that's going to be successful, who's the one that's just going to have kids. As much as we love each other, there's always that one person. We're always talking about your success. You've done so well. When I see you on my feed randomly, it just feels like it's a celebrity. It really does, friend, because I have to tune myself. But your work speaks so much volumes that it gives me goosebumps all the time, and I am super proud of you. Like, people don't understand the journey that we have been through for you to get here, and looking at how you've changed people's lives. Because I sit there and I watch your videos and I'm like, why didn't you tell me about this? And like, I'm like, okay, this strategy works, and I celebrate you so much because you're always about plugging people all the time. You will never get an opportunity where you feel like somebody can really be an expert and just let it pass. So I'm super proud and I'm so honored and I'm thankful to be here today sitting across you having this conversation. We'll share this conversation with my baby Kenya and Zoe when they're older.
You're going to make me cry on my podcast, girl. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much.
Then Miracle Waka is done.
Oh, friend, thank you so much for coming. I love you.
I love you more.
And I think I'd echo the same words to you. I'm so proud of you. And I know there's still so much to go work and do, but I think we can sit together and say we kind of did it.
Yeah, we kind of did it.
We
like
kinda
after
did
this, we now need to plan drinks and be like, friend, let us
Thank you. We
amazing.
kind of did it. So thank you so much for
It's a
joining me.
pleasure.
Resonate community, this episode was so sentimental to me, and I hope that you really enjoyed it. This was just as somebody that's so close to my heart that I've grown up with and that she see me grow up, and just having this conversation just made me reflect so much around just our growth and just seeing her blossom and just everything else that I've done as well. And it's such an honor and such a privilege to have these conversations with the people that I love. So thank you so much for joining us, for listening, watching, wherever you are. Let me know in the comment section what was the biggest takeaway that you had from this convo. We love you guys so much, and we'll see you guys in our next podcast episode. Goodbye.